Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight on this virtual public workshop for the Park Avenue Relocation Phase 2 Capital Project. I'd just like to begin by introducing everyone on the presentation panel for tonight's workshop. My name is Ed Robles, and I am a DelDOT project manager and the main point of contact for this capital project. Also with us on this panel is Brian Behrens, Group Manager in our Project Development South section of DelDOT. Brian is the DelDOT Group Manager for all capital projects in Sussex County. Also with us is Brett Abrahamson from WRA. He is a Senior Project Engineer, and WRA is the consulting firm helping us with the project design, and Brett has been the main design engineer on that project. Also from WRA is Rob Wills, Vice President of WRA's Reading office. Rob manages WRA's design team and is the main point of contact between DelDOT and WRA. And also with us is Rosemary Richardson, Joe Cravens, and Laura Johnson from DelDOT's real estate section. And they will be available and helping us answer any questions relating to land acquisitions and real estate purchases. So if we could go to the next slide, Brett. So before we get into the presentation, I'd just like to go over some housekeeping items. As this slide indicates, if you're wondering how you'll be able to participate tonight on this virtual workshop, one, you can listen in by using your computer speakers or by calling in on your phone. If you call in, you can use the number shown here, shown below, and associated ID. And this bullet point at the bottom is key. All attendees, whether on the phone or using the computer speakers, will be joining this session in listen-only mode. So that means that you can see us, you can see the presentation, but you will not be able to see other attendees. So as far as how to ask questions, anytime during the presentation, you can type a question in or provide comments in the Q&A box found on the right side of your screen. There's that image that you see on this slide. All you have to do is click on the Q&A icon, and a dialog box will pop up, and you can use that to type in your question or comment, and that comment will be recorded and logged in. And at the end of the presentation, we will have time to go over all the questions and provide answers. So that being said, if you're having trouble using the Q&A function, you can email me questions at edwin.robles@delaware.gov anytime during the session. Each question will be reviewed by the moderator, whom tonight is Brian Behrens, and the panelists, and we'll be able to provide a response. Some questions might be answered directly using that Q&A function, depending on the nature of the question. So next slide shows the agenda for tonight. As I mentioned earlier, we will begin the workshop with a presentation followed by a Q&A answer period until about 7 p.m. tonight. So let me start the presentation by going over the purpose of the workshop, which is to obtain public input on the design and to provide an update on the project schedule. Hopefully by now, most folks have been able to review the display and workshop materials that were posted in our project website. On that website, we also have posted a survey or comment form for the public to provide comment and feedback on the project. So comments will be accepted until October 26th. But as I mentioned earlier, you can also send questions or comments directly to me at the email provided on these slides. So moving on to the project location, this slide shows the entire project limits overlaid on an aerial image. The plan is oriented so that north is at the top of the page, with Park Avenue running up and down for the most part, and US 9 running side to side. The town of Georgetown is located on the left side of the page. The area highlighted in yellow are the project limits for the Park Avenue Relocation Phase 2 project. This project will include improvements along US 9 from points west of the Park Avenue and US 9 intersection to just east of the US 9 and Shingle Point intersection, as well as south of the US 9 and Park Avenue intersection along Park Avenue to a point just west of the intersection of Park Avenue and Cedar Lane, which is where the Park Avenue Phase 1 project limits pick up, shown here in the dashed blue line. So as far as the purpose and need for the project, DelDOT's Capital Transportation Plan, also referred to as the CTP, recommended to upgrade the US 9 truck bypass around Georgetown by widening it and adding proper turn lanes and upgrading the signalized intersection, as well as realignment of the US 9 truck route bypass to provide continuous truck route around Georgetown from the east, along US 9 east to US 13. So the primary need for the project is to improve the traffic operations and safety of the truck route, as well as a secondary need being promotion of economic growth and consistency with our federal, state, and local initiatives. So this next slide shows you the overall scope of the Park Avenue relocation project. So a few years ago, the department decided to split this project into 2 phases to expedite the design and timing of construction. This slide shows the limits of each project with the Park Avenue Phase 1 limits shown highlighted in the brown or maroon color on the left side of the display, and the Phase 2 project highlighted in the yellowish color on the right side of this display. In the following slides, Brett will provide a more detailed explanation of the road improvements proposed by the Phase 2 capital project. So that being said, I will now turn it over to Brett.
All right, thanks, Ed. Good evening, everybody. As Ed said, I'm just going to take a few minutes here and go through the project and highlight some key aspects of the improvements that we're proposing the Park Avenue Phase 2 project. On this first slide, you'll see some of the improvements for Park Avenue. We are, as Ed has mentioned, proposing to widen Park Avenue. The typical section, which would basically just be if you take a cut of the roadway and look at it sideways, will include 12-foot travel lanes and 10-foot shoulders. We will also be constructing new turn lanes at several of the existing intersections, and the purpose of that would be to remove turning traffic from the travel lanes to improve safety along the corridor. We'll also be regrading the swales adjacent to the roadway and constructing stormwater management facilities to handle the stormwater runoff from the pavement. We'll be improving the curvature of Park Avenue east of Wood Branch Road. This would be the severe curve that I'm sure most folks are aware of southeast of the airport. And we will be grading an outfall ditch to the north of Park Avenue near US 9, which I'll provide some more details on in here in a little bit. As far as the intersecting roadways, Cedar Lane, Wood Branch Road, we'll be improving those together to form a new realignment that will provide better access to and from Park Avenue. Springfield Road, we'll be constructing a new right turn lane from Springfield Road onto Park Avenue. At US 9, we'll be adding new turn lanes as well and rebuilding the traffic signal. And then finally at Shingle Point Road, we'll be constructing a new right turn lane onto US 9. So here's another overview of the project. Just a few things to highlight for this 30,000-foot view here. Here at the western end of the project, you can see the new realigned roadway being constructed under the Park Avenue Phase 1 project. So at the time of construction, the existing Park Avenue up here will actually be removed and traffic will be utilizing the new alignment, which ties in at the Aero Safety Road and South Bedford Street intersections. As I mentioned, we'll be adding turn lanes at all the intersecting roadways, which includes the Cedar Wood Branch area, Springfield Road, Nanticoke Avenue as well, the entrance to the Delaware Coastal Business Park, and Ann Lane. We'll be improving the signal up here at US 9 and then adding turn lanes at Shingle Point Road. And as I mentioned as well, stormwater management facilities will be constructed here, here, and here, as well as an outfall ditch up here, which I'll show a more detailed view here in a little bit. So now I'm going to actually walk through the project at a more detailed view, just to kind of give some more specifics of the project. So here, starting at the southwestern end, you can see once again, this is where Park Avenue Phase 1 will tie in to existing Park Avenue. Now, the Park Avenue Phase 2 project will be what we call on alignment. So it will essentially be following the path of the existing roadway, with the exception of the realigned curve, which I'll get to on the next screen. But generally, the alignment will follow the existing roadway and will just be widened, so the footprint of the roadway will get a little bit bigger. As you can see, the major improvement on this slide would be modifications to Cedar Lane and Wood Branch Road. So existing Cedar Lane runs right along here, with existing Wood Branch Road running this way. So due to the poor geometry that causes with the intersections at Park Avenue, it creates difficulties for sight distance, for turning movements. We are opting to realign Wood Branch Road, as seen here, to come into Park Avenue at a 90-degree angle, which, like I said, will improve sight distance and turning movements. In order to maintain the existing residences along Wood Branch Road, we'll still be providing direct access to Wood Branch Road for 2 residences here, and the remaining access will be maintained via an access road and cul-de-sac, which will generally follow the existing Wood Branch Road alignment. So all property accesses along Wood Branch Road will be maintained. Cedar Lane will be partially removed, which will require all traffic to and from Park Avenue to point south to use the new Wood Branch Road alignment, with the exception of this stretch here, which will be maintained to provide access or maintain access to this property right here. Continuing now to the east, we get to the realigned curve that I had mentioned earlier, that's southeast of the airport. You can see here is Nanticoke Avenue and the Delaware State Fire Marshal Building. So as I mentioned, this curve will actually be realigned and go slightly off alignment. It will be pushed out and away from the airport. The existing roadway runs right about in here. And this curve is being realigned because the existing curve does not meet standards based upon the design speed for the roadway. So by pushing it out, we're able to increase the radius of the curve of the roadway to meet our requirements for design speed. Turn lanes will be added for Nanticoke Avenue, both a left turn and a right turn. And stormwater management facilities will be constructed down in this area, which will outfall directly into the ditch that runs along the tree line here. Additionally, a curb and a storm drain system consisting of inlets and pipes will be constructed along the Delaware State Fire Marshal parking lot, along with some paving to tie in, and this will ensure that drainage is conveyed adequately along the roadway and along the parking lot of the fire marshal. Continuing now to the north along Park Avenue, we get to the intersection with Springfield Road and Sussex Avenue. Sussex Avenue today is a gated roadway with restricted access. That will be maintained in the proposed condition. The airport fencing that runs along this stretch will be relocated back along with the gate along the roadway. So this roadway will continue to function, or this intersection, excuse me, will continue to function as a T intersection like it does today. Similar to the other intersections, we will be widening for a right turn lane onto Springfield Road and a left turn lane. And then we will also be widening along Springfield Road itself to provide separate left and right turn lanes onto Park Avenue. A stormwater management facility is proposed here to control stormwater runoff and will outfall into the existing Peterkins Branch ditch, which runs along here. An existing 60-inch culvert that runs beneath Park Avenue will also be extended to account for the widening of the roadway and associated grading. Finally, on this slide, a ditch in this area along this property line will be regraded to help with conveyance of runoff from Park Avenue. This is an existing ditch that will essentially just be cleaned and regraded to ensure proper drainage. Continuing again to the north, we get to the entrance to the Delaware Coastal Business Park. Once again, the roadway will be widened to account for turn lanes into the business park, which also will function as an entrance to the airport. Aside from that, it would just be the same general widening to account for the typical section and grading of ditches to provide drainage conveyance or storage. Now, as we approach US 9, you see here the Park Avenue crossing of the Delmarva Central Railroad, as well as Ann Lane. Ann Lane will include improvements, right and left turn lanes into Ann Lane, as well as improvements to the railroad crossing, as you can see here. Along with the actual crossing improvements itself, we will also be including a pedestrian crossing of Park Avenue right here, which is going to tie into the planned Lewis to Georgetown Trail project, which will be coming through this area. And included with that will be a refuge island in the median to assist pedestrians in crossing the roadway in a safe manner. And then if you direct your eyes up here, you will see the outfall ditch that I had mentioned earlier. It was noted during design that this particular section of Park Avenue between the railroad and US 9 has particularly poor drainage just due to the existing topography of the area and the fact that there is no existing outfall. So in order to remedy that and to improve drainage in the area, we are proposing a ditch along this property line, which will allow a relief point for drainage in this area to travel up to US 9 into the existing systems up there and follow existing drainage patterns, which continue on to the north. Moving now to the last slide for the proposed improvements, we get up to US 9. As you can see here, the US 9 intersection with Park Avenue, as well as the US 9 intersection with Shingle Point Road. At US 9 and Park Avenue, we will be adding dedicated turn lanes for all movements, including the eastbound right and westbound left from US 9. And Park Avenue will also include dedicated left turn lanes and a right turn lane. The right turn lane onto eastbound US 9 will also include an acceleration lane, as this is the main time for the truck route to US 9 to allow for safe acceleration of trucks and other vehicles so they can safely merge in with traffic. And the signal at the US 9 Park Avenue intersection will also be rebuilt due to impacts from the widening. At US 9 and Shingle Point Road, similar to the other side roads, we will be adding turn lanes, a left turn lane, and a right turn lane from US 9, as well as separate left and right turn lanes from Shingle Point Road onto US 9. And the final highlight I wanted to make on this slide would be 2 existing bus stops, which are located at the eastern limit of the project, will be improved to have concrete pads adjacent to the roadway to improve transit operations in the area. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ed to go over project schedule.
Thanks, Brett. All right. So if you could go, there we go. So this slide provides just a general overview of our current schedule. To date, we have completed our right-of-way plans, which allows the department ability to begin the right-of-way acquisition process. So that process is currently underway as we are now in the fall of 2021. Our next milestone after that will be to begin utility relocations, which we anticipate to take place next fall in 2022. We anticipate to have all of the right-of-way needed for the project in the spring of 2023, which will allow the department to advertise and select the contractor to begin construction later that year in the summer of 2023. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. At this time, I see that we're starting to get some questions. So we will go ahead and begin our Q&A session. As a reminder, if you have not already done so, please send us your questions via that Q&A box found at the right side of your screen, or you can always email me questions at edwin.robles@delaware.gov.
Thanks, Ed. So we'll just go down the line here of the questions that we've got so far. The first question that we have, probably going to look at you, Brett, for the first few of these. So in previous in-person presentations, we were repeatedly told that 10-foot shoulders and 12-foot through lanes would be measured from the center of the road. You want to speak to that? The comment is that it looks that plan has changed. So I'll let you answer that one if you get to it, Brett.
Sure, yeah. So I mean, those widths have not changed. It's still 12-foot lanes and 10-foot shoulders. I guess the only possible change would be that we are including turn lanes. As we've progressed with the design, it was determined that those were warranted at these intersecting side roads to improve safety. Like I said, it pulls traffic out of the main traffic stream. So if there's a vehicle coming behind, it wouldn't inadvertently have a rear end collision. So the 12-foot lanes and 10-foot shoulders is still correct. Just would be that we have added some turn lanes.
Thanks, Brett. Next question, probably still with you. Will the natural gas lines be relocated? So if you want to just kind of get into, we didn't really discuss, we just gave a timeline for utility relocations. We can try to go into a little bit more depth with what's involved with that.
Yeah, and actually here, let me switch my screen here. So yeah, as far as the gas line, yes, there is an Eastern Shore natural gas line that runs up Wood Branch, continues up Park Avenue, and then along US 9 and up Shingle Point Road. So that gas line will be relocated in its entirety. It will be located on the east side of the roadway is the anticipated location currently. And then additionally, basically all other utilities will be impacted and relocated as well. That includes electric, telecoms. I think that's pretty much it. Comcast and Verizon there. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yep, thank you. The next question is, please explain why you need a pedestrian bridge at the railroad tracks on Park Avenue. So we're not necessarily proposing a bridge there. It's more of a refuge island. So that is part of the Lewis to Georgetown trail that DelDOT is working on to go right into the heart of Georgetown all the way up to Lewis. And in this section, it is more rail with trail. So we're trying to accommodate pedestrians and cyclists who may want to cross the road, but the railway is operational here. So the refuge island, I don't know if you can zoom in at all on that, Brett. It does provide some refuge for folks who are crossing the street. In that scenario, it's something that DelDOT has been trying to put in practice on a few of our crossings, more in the Lewis area recently, but they seem to be working. So that's the thought there. Not a bridge, but more of a break in the concrete median to provide a place to stop. Okay, next question we have is, what is the size of the impact on my property at 233 at 65 Park Avenue? So I'm going to rely on my team here to hopefully they have looked that up and can jump in here, Brett or Ed. I don't know the parcel off the top of my head.
Yeah, let me just, I can pull it up here.
I think that's the parcel 2 properties south of the Realtor Association on the west side. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that Dennis and Lori.
Dennis, Lindsay.
Yeah.
So the impact to the property would be widening to account for the additional shoulder width and turn lane, and then regrading. And when we say regrading, this will all be, these blue lines here are open swales. So it'll just be basically a grass area that's depressed to allow drainage to be conveyed. And that would be conveying stormwater runoff during storm events. And then basically the limit of the green shade that you see here is the limit of the impact of the parcel. So the driveway entrance would be impacted as well and tie into the proposed Park Avenue.
I think there's a follow-up question. I don't mean to jump around in the questions, but I think it's the same person. So the question is there, it doesn't appear that the impact is equal north of the railroad tracks. The impact is shifted west. Is that true? And what is the impact on properties on the west? I apologize if that's not the same person. It just shows up as a user on the Q&A.
So there might be a slight shift to that side. We were trying to balance in this area. There are several wells and septic systems around here that we are trying to avoid and minimize impacts to as much as possible. I know this parcel that we were just speaking about does have a well in the front yard, which we were able to set the alignment to avoid impact to that well. So I think that drove a lot of the location of the alignment in this stretch was to, it may not be completely equal, it might not be exactly 10 feet this side and 10 feet that side, but we were trying to mitigate impacts as much as possible to all parcels in the area.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, I'm going to go back up down the line here. So why is drainage off Park Avenue making a left-hand turn as opposed to straight to Route 9? So I'm assuming they're referring to the outfall ditch. Yeah, right there.
So I think it's primarily due to grades. So this ends up being a slightly shorter route. And the problem with this area is, it is very flat. So, any little bit that you can make up the grade difference is going to help to convey that runoff. We also run into issues with conveying past, there's a stormwater management facility here for the Realtor Association. So if we direct more water this way, that means that we need to increase the size of the ditch, which could increase impacts there. So to mitigate that possibility, we rerouted it this way along the property line.
Thank you, Brett. So there are a few questions here that are of a similar nature. I'm going to try to summarize. They mostly have to do with impacts to the equally onto the sides of the road. So whenever we have a project where we have to try to widen the road, typically that's where we start from. And then, as Brett mentioned earlier, we're trying to add in turn lanes in different places, and then there are other specific impacts as they may relate to drainage or utility relocations that are needed as we go through the project development process, and that tends to then manifest itself in needing more property from one property owner versus another. Department makes every effort to go through that process mindful to those types of impacts, but inevitably it always goes that way where some property owners have more right-of-way needs than others. So that's kind of a general answer to that question. And there are some other kind of groups of questions that I've seen come through, which are, how many feet are impacted to this specific property? And I think that might be more appropriate to answer in a one-on-one meeting, which I think we are open to do, and would encourage to have that one-on-one meeting. But we also, want to be, I guess, we want to be transparent here, and that's the impacts are kind of shown, not conceptually, they're shown what's in our final right-of-way plan on the screen. And we can zoom into specific properties and we can tell you that, but I don't know that we have our right-of-way plan information in front of us. If we do, then guys on the call and girls, feel free to answer that question. But if not, I would encourage us to schedule follow-up meetings to discuss the right-of-way needs for DelDOT, which we would be doing in the near future anyway as part of that acquisition process. So try to group some of those questions together there. Okay, I'll go back to the questions here. Okay, next question is, why are there bike lanes on the truck route? This is unsafe. So shoulders are used as bike lanes in Delaware, when we are striping bike lanes where we have turn lanes, which is part of our complete streets policy. And the road widening will provide more shoulder than is there today, which is safe for not only just the trucks and the passenger cars, but for cyclists as well. Brett, anything to add to that, or Ed?
No, I think you covered it there, Brian.
When will front yard wells be replaced? So DelDOT did go through some investigation of well and septic impacts with this project. Those are reflected in the right-of-way needs that our real estate agents have. Typically, the way that process goes is if we've determined that your well or septic is impacted, it becomes part of the right-of-way compensation process. We do have some of our real estate representatives on the phone on the call today. Could they chime in here to offer some perspective on that as far as timing?
Brian, they might be having some technical difficulties. So they're working through that.
Okay. Okay. In general, though, that becomes part of the right-of-way negotiation and acquisition process. So if there's room to relocate those wells and septics, that's what happens. And typically, DelDOT is there with you through that process as far as the cost associated with that. The next comment is this will greatly affect the amount of land farmers have available to grow their crops. We are certainly sensitive to that and try to do our best to minimize the number of impacts that we may have on any given project. But appreciate the comment. Another question related to right-of-way. What will be the monetary compensation for property taken? Again, would defer. I don't know if Sarah, see you have unmuted yourself. Maybe you're available to answer this one. Still have some technical difficulties, it sounds like. So, in general, that for each property, each parcel that DelDOT needs right away on, there is an appraisal process typically that compares property values, in the area, and it's based on that. I'm certainly not a real estate expert, and we can follow up with you if that's something that you would be interested in to get you a more specific answer. But the specific amount I couldn't tell you today. Same person, when will mature trees be replaced? So if they're trees that are within the limit of construction for the project, they are typically removed, and the homeowner, if they reside on private property, the homeowner is typically paid for that. And that the question of timing would is usually also part of that right-of-way negotiation phase, where DelDOT can pay the homeowner to have that tree removed if the homeowner wants to, do something with the tree to relocate it. But if they don't, the contractor sometimes will likely remove it as well. So the timing can vary. I don't know if it's needed to be removed for any advanced utility relocations. That's also something that DelDOT would likely, we would acquire the property, of course, that's needed first. But then the timing of when that tree would need to be cleared or cut down would also be in advance of that. What precautions will be taken to ensure safety of livestock and the prevention of trespassing during construction? It's a good question. So it sounds like if you have livestock on your property that you are concerned about during construction, which it sounds like, I think that we should set up some time to discuss offline to kind of work through what your specific concerns would be and timing, so that we can make our contractor aware when the time comes. The prevention of trespassing during construction, I think, would be a concern for anybody who lives along an active construction site. And so I don't know the specific protocols that DelDOT has for that, but we can certainly look into that and get back to you while we're discussing the livestock question. So Ed, would you be able to get Madeline, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, get her information, and we can follow up with her on that?
Yes, yeah. And if you want to, Madeline, you can email me, but yeah, I've written your name down and I've written down those concerns.
Okay, sorry, just going through the questions and the ones that I think I tried to group together. If I didn't, I apologize. Please type it in again if I missed you. Hi, Patricia. It's good to hear from you again. So your question is the issue is that certain properties are not able to relocate their wells due to septic system and stay in compliance with county and state ordinances. What happens then? So I'm going to look. Okay, Sarah's typing an answer. Thank you, Sarah. While Sarah's typing an answer, I'm going to look at Ed and Brett one more time. We did have some well and septic impacts that I think we're not unfortunately able to find answers for, but if you could generally talk about that.
Sure, yeah, there are several wells and septics that are being impacted. I think the ones that were most, spent the most time looking at. Here. Several parcels, I'm not sure if this is one of the ones in reference. Several parcels up here have septics in their front yard. We were able to do some investigations and determine that those septics could be relocated, essentially be switched with the wells, or the septic systems would be relocated to the backyards and the wells to the front yards. So I believe we were able to do enough investigation to determine that there would be relocation feasible on any parcel that's impacted. So and that would also be handled as part of the real estate process.
Thanks, Brett. And Patricia again. So what about farmland that is in farmland preservation? We able to pull up the farmland preservation map, or do we have that information? Again, looking at you, Brett and Sarah, I don't know if you're able to answer that the way you answered to type in before.
Yeah, I don't know that I can try to pull it up. And Sarah's answering now.
While Sarah's answering that question, Ron, what is the status of phase one? So phase one is about to be advertised here in the next few weeks to the contracting community, and we expect the construction, the roadwork construction, to start in the spring. And what the general public would see in the next few months, this fall and into the winter, is tree clearing and utility relocations going on as part of that project, but it is close to being in construction. Okay, and a question come in. I'm the co-owner of Route 9 Shingle Point Road Triangle, and I have any concerns would be best addressed directly. So we will reach out and try to set up a meeting. If you want to provide your contact info, that would be good. Or we can, or you can feel free to email Ed Robles, the contact information that was in the beginning of the slides, to set up a meeting, and we'd be happy to meet to discuss. So for those that are also interested in that, this presentation and the question and answer session will be, is recorded and will be posted to DelDOT's YouTube page this week, likely. So there are no more open questions. I hope that our answers were sufficient. We're going to stay on, of course, so feel free, anybody who has any follow-up questions, just feel free to type them in and we'll answer them as they come in.
All right, so I'm gonna jump back on here and take another question. The question is, I see that the movement of the Route 9 and Park Avenue has remained the same. Is there a reason that was not adjusted to a more 90-degree angle as we have seen for Wood Branch and Park Avenue? Yes, the primary issue being impacts. So in order to realign Park Avenue to come in at a 90 to US 9, which would be ideal, it would require impacts either parcel on either one of these corners. In comparison to this location, DelDOT is actually looking to acquire this parcel in total for a stormwater management facility here. So since DelDOT would already be owning the property, that's why this became a viable option to relocate Wood Branch Road. And then I guess I'll take Dennis's as well. Dennis, you're asking for actual dimensions on the drawings of where the road surface and swales and right-of-way fall, and whether the measurements are from existing center line of road. We can certainly provide measurements from between any 2 points. I think probably we're getting to some of the specifics. It'll be difficult for us to scale it here on what we have available for this meeting. So that might be better suited for a one-on-one meeting, as Brian mentioned.
Brad, are you able to flip back to the schedule? That was the other question. Got one more question from Anne. So this appears to be a larger project than initially presented a few years ago. It's about the same. I think that the biggest change that we've made are probably at the bookends of the project where we're realigning Wood Branch and kind of changing up the Cedar Wood Branch Park Ave triangle, if you will, where we weren't really doing that before. That had more to do with some stormwater management design, and then at the other end where we've kind of added the shingle point intersection, which was also not in the original concept. So I think yes is the answer, but other than that, it's mostly still the same project. A few turn lane additions, things of that nature, but the scope of widening to provide a better truck route is still the same. And the overall project of providing a more direct truck route between 113 and Route 9 with both phases of Park Ave is still very much the same. But good question. Thank you. We have another question from Patricia. So 2 properties at the corners of 9 and Park are commercial. Have considerations been made to the economic impacts to each property? It appears there's some additional negative impacts to one over the other. How is this justified? So I see Sarah is typing an answer. Thank you, Sarah. But I will try my best to answer from a project engineering type perspective. It's not the access to those properties is largely the same, and the impacts have more to do with kind of cleaning up the drainage patterns in the area, and much less as far as taking access away or things of that nature, which we often get into those kinds of conversations about economic impact. But I'm not sure. I'm gonna maybe let Sarah finish her response here, but that's our approach. The access is largely unchanged as a result of this project, and beyond that, I'm not quite sure the type of response there. Thank you, Sarah. Just wanted to hop back on here and let everyone know that our presentation part of this evening is concluded. We will continue to roll through the slides that were presented and be available for questions. But just wanted to let everyone know that the actual formal presentation part is over. I haven't had a few questions come in for the last 10 minutes or so. So thank you.
Okay, so I received an email a few minutes ago from someone asking the following question, saying someone came to the door and I missed the information about how we would be recompensated for property taken. Could you please explain? So our real estate group provided a response, said basically we would have an appraisal, would have an appraisal done and reviewed, and an offer would be presented to the owner, to the specific owner of that property. At the time, the owner would have 30 days for review, and afterwards, negotiations between DelDOT and the owner would begin. So there you go. That's the answer for that question.
Okay, we have another question from Ann. So the question is, the project has expanded into a major highway. Is the plan to ultimately turn all of Park Avenue into one large industrial park? So DelDOT, beyond this project, and looking into the current CTP, doesn't have any more projects on Park Avenue other than phase 1 and phase 2. The county does have some projects, I believe, related to the business park, the industrial park, and associated with the airport, but DelDOT, beyond this project, this is what we have planned for Park Avenue at this time. Thanks. So we have another question about this. What's the posted speed limit going to be on Park Avenue? And that will be 45 miles per hour. As far as enforcement goes, it won't be anything other than what is traditionally there today with just the posted signs and then police presence, monitoring those speeds. And I should clarify the previous question about other projects in the area. So back on phase 1 towards Route 113, it's not in the planned CTP. It's not in the current CTP, but it is planned as part of the US 113 overall plan, north-south study, to have a grade separation and overpass at 113 and aero safety. But again, that's not a project that's in the CTP yet, but it is something that is planned for the future at some point in time. But nothing on Park Avenue. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to point out that Representative Ruth Briggs King is on. I believe she raised her hand. So I would just like to say, Mrs. King, if you have a question or like to say something, if you could type it in and we could relay that message to the public. Thank you. All right. I just wanted to say I see that Representative Briggs King has sent us a message. So the reason that you weren't able to hear anything is that we are now in our Q&A question and answer segment. We did do the presentation and we went over all the slides. We will have this presentation and public workshop recording in our website, but we can always also do a briefing on a separate date if you'd like. Thank you. All right. It looks like we had another question come in that was answered by our real estate folks, but I'll read it out loud for everyone's benefit. One of the question was, will there be advanced property acquisition? Some may need to be relocated and this will take time and money. And the answer was any relocations will be appraised, acquired, and relocated first. All right, thank you.
Hey everybody. So for anyone who's hopped on and missed the previous presentation or came in the middle of that, we're going to start that again at 6. and run through the slides one more time, and then we'll be available for any follow-up questions from that. So hang on, and we're gonna do it again at 6. Thanks.
All right. Good evening, everyone. As Brian mentioned earlier, we're gonna go over the slide. So one more time, as we had some people log in a little late. So we're gonna go through it again. So let me just go over briefly some of the housekeeping items. It's mainly how to participate. As you've seen by now, we're not able to hear you speak. There you can participate on this public workshop in 2 ways. You can listen in by calling in or using your computer audio. If you call in, you can use that number listed on this slide along with that passcode. But like I said, every attendee is on a listen only mode, so won't be able to speak to us. But you can submit questions through the Q&A button there. All you have to do is click on that icon, the Q&A icon, and a dialog box will pop up where you can send us your questions or comments. However, if you're having issues using that Q&A function, you can email me directly at edwin.robles@delaware.gov anytime during the session or after. And we will make sure to provide you an answer. So this slide just talks about the agenda for tonight, which was to go over the presentation, which takes about 30 minutes, and then close it with a Q&A period. So start the presentation with the purpose of the workshop, which is to obtain public input on the design and provide update on the project schedule. We've had, hopefully by now, most folks have been able to review the displays that we had, the workshop displays that we have in the project website. On the project website, we also have posted a survey or comment form for the public to provide comments and feedback on the project. And as I mentioned earlier, you can also email me any questions you may have. So if we go to the next slide. So the project location, this slide shows the entire project limits on an aerial image. The plan is oriented so that north is on the top of the page with Park Avenue running up and down, and US 9 side to side. The town of Georgetown is located on the left side of the page. The area highlighted in yellow are the project limits of the Park Avenue relocation phase 2 project. This project will include improvements along US 9 from points west of the Park Avenue and US 9 intersection to just east of the US 9 and Shingle Point intersection, as well as improvements along Park Avenue, south of the intersection with US 9, down to a point just west of the Park Avenue Cedar Lane intersection, which is where Park Avenue Phase 1 project limits pick up, shown here in the dashed blue line. As far as the project purpose and need, DelDOT's Capital Transportation Plan, commonly referred to as the CTP, recommends to upgrade the US 9 truck bypass around Georgetown with appropriate turn lanes and signalized intersections, as well as the realignment of the US 9 truck bypass to provide that continuous truck route from east along US 9 over to the west side of Georgetown onto US 113. And the primary need is to improve traffic operations and safety, as well as secondary need being promotion of economic growth and consistency with federal, state, and local initiatives. A few years ago, the department decided to split the Park Avenue relocation project shown here, which, like I said earlier, expands from 113 all the way out to US 9. And the reason for that was to expedite the design and construction and timing of construction. So this slide shows the limits of each project with Park Avenue Phase 1 limits shown sort of on the left side of the page, highlighted in the brown or maroon color, and Phase 2 projects highlighted in the yellowish color on the right side of the page. And so in the following slides, Brett will provide a more detailed explanation of the road improvements proposed by the Phase 2 capital project. So that being said, I will now turn it over to Brett.
All right, thanks, Ed. Good evening, everybody. As Ed mentioned, my name is Brett Abrahamson. I'm with WRA, and we are working with DelDOT on the design of this Park Avenue Phase 2 project. And I just want to go over some of the details of the design and what's being proposed. So along Park Avenue, we are proposing to widen the typical section, which essentially means if you were to take a cut of the roadway and look at it from the side, what the section would look like for the roadway. So the section is being widened to include 12-foot lanes and 10-foot shoulders. We'll also be constructing new turn lanes at the existing intersections to improve safety by removing turning vehicles from the main travel stream. We'll also be regrading roadside swales and constructing stormwater management facilities. This will serve to better convey and control stormwater runoff from the roadway and also improve safety by regrading the slopes coming off the shoulders. We'll also be improving the curvature of Park Avenue east of Wood Branch Road. I'm sure many folks are aware there's a curve there that's more severe than some of the other ones, so we'll be improving the curvature there. And then also grading a new outfall ditch to the north of the railroad tracks to better drain that area. And I'll be getting into some more details on some subsequent slides. Intersecting roadways that will be improved, Cedar Lane and Wood Branch Road. We are looking to remove a portion of Cedar Lane and realign Wood Branch Road to better intersect with Park Avenue. Springfield Road will be widening to construct a new right turn lane onto Park Avenue. At the Park Avenue and US 9 intersection, we'll be rebuilding the traffic signal and constructing new turn lanes, and also constructing turn lanes at and onto Shingle Point Road. So here's an overview of the project, the full project limits for Park Avenue Phase 2. I'll note here on the left side of the screen, this portion here represents the realigned roadway that will be constructed under the Park Ave Phase 1 project and open to traffic at the time that this project is being constructed. So at that time, existing Park Avenue in this area will be removed and all traffic will be using this new roadway. The major intersections that I already mentioned, Cedar Lane, Wood Branch Road here, Nanacoke, Sussex Avenue, and Springfield Road. There's also an entrance to the Delmarva Coastal Business Park here, as well as Ann Lane, and all of these will have improvements to add turn lanes along Park Avenue into these side intersections. And then the US 9 Park Avenue intersection will also have upgraded turn lanes and a signal, and added turn lanes at Shingle Point Road as well. The blue areas that you see are proposed stormwater management facilities, which are located here, here, and here, as well as the outfall ditch that I mentioned to improve drainage here in the northern section of Park Avenue closer to US 9. So now I'm actually going to walk through with an even more detailed view of the project, just to give some more specifics on what's being proposed. So starting at the western limit of the project, you see again here, the Park Avenue Phase 1 roadway, tying into the existing alignment of Park Avenue. Park Avenue Phase 2 will be mostly on alignment, which means that basically the proposed roadway will generally follow the existing footprint of the existing roadway, just a little bit wider. There is one exception that we'll get to for the curve on the next sheet. The major upgrade here will be in this triangle that's formed by Park Avenue, Wood Branch Road, and Cedar Lane. Existing Cedar Lane is right along here. Existing Wood Branch Road then runs right along here. So what is being proposed is to realign Wood Branch Road as shown to come into Park Avenue at more of a 90-degree angle. And the reason for this is the skew of the roadways or these intersections is not ideal from a safety perspective as far as sight distance goes when you're looking to make turns, as well as the turning maneuvers themselves, which are more difficult when you have difficult angles like this. So the 90-degree intersection is more desirable. We will be maintaining access to all homes along existing Wood Branch Road, either directly, as shown here with these two entrances, or via a new access road and cul-de-sac, which will generally follow the old Wood Branch Road alignment. And then this portion of Cedar Lane will be removed. So all traffic heading from Park Avenue to point south will utilize the new Wood Branch Road alignment. And then this portion of Cedar Lane will remain to provide access to this residence adjacent to Park Avenue. We're also proposing a stormwater management facility in this triangular parcel that's formed in between the roadways. Moving to the east, as you see here, we have Nanticoke Avenue and the Delaware State Fire Marshal for some reference. This existing curve along Park Avenue, which is actually located right around in this area, is substandard based upon current design standards for the design speed of the roadway. So in order to improve that curve, we are, this is the one section we are going slightly off alignment outside of the existing roadway footprint to increase the curve radius and thereby meeting design standards for the speed of the roadway. We'll also be adding turn lanes to Nanticoke Avenue, both the left and right turn lane, and stormwater management facilities down in this area, which will outfall into this existing ditch that runs along this tree line. Final thing to mention on this slide at the Delaware State Fire Marshal, we will be installing a new curb along the parking lot of the Fire Marshal, as well as a storm drain system consisting of inlets and pipes. This is done to better convey water along Park Avenue to the appropriate outfalls, and then a portion of the parking lot will also be repaved to ensure proper drainage along the pavement there. As we continue to the north now, we get to the Park Avenue intersection with Springfield Road and Sussex Avenue. Sussex Avenue today is gated with access being restricted, and there's a longer airport fence that runs along here. That fence will be relocated outside of the limits, and the gate at Sussex Avenue will be maintained. So access will continue to be restricted onto Sussex Ave. So this intersection will continue to function as a T intersection between Park Avenue and Springfield Road. We are proposing turn lanes to Springfield Road as well, both a right turn lane and left turn lane into Springfield Road. And then along Springfield Road itself, we will be widening to have separate left and right turn lanes onto Park Avenue. Right here, we have a proposed stormwater management facility, again, to control stormwater runoff in this area, which will then outfall into the Peterkins Branch ditch, which runs along this tree line. A 60-inch pipe culvert crossing Park Avenue will also be extended to maintain existing drainage patterns to account for the proposed widening, for the Park Avenue. And then finally on this slide, there will be a short portion of ditch, an existing ditch that runs along the property line here, which will be regraded to better convey runoff from the roadway that runs in these roadside swales. Continuing to the north, we get to the Delaware Coastal Business Park. Again, I will note the turn lanes that will be added into the business park, which is going to eventually serve as an entrance into the airport. Aside from that, the improvements in this area are generally typical with the other slides that you've seen, including the open section or ditch section along the roadways to convey or store stormwater runoff. Again, continuing to the north, we get to the Park Avenue crossing of the Delmarva Central Railroad here, as well as intersections with Ann Lane. Ann Lane, again, will include turn lanes on Park Avenue. At the Park Avenue crossing with the Delmarva Central Railroad, there will be improvements to the rail crossing that are being coordinated with the railroad, as well as a pedestrian crossing just north of the railroad, you can see here. And this crossing, this will be an at-grade crossing, meaning that it will be level with the roadway. And the purpose of this is to tie into the upcoming Lewis to Georgetown Trail project, which will be coming through to provide safe crossing of Park Avenue. And this will include a median refuge island in the middle of the roadway, and that provides opportunity for pedestrians to wait if need be and provide a safer crossing for them. Final thing to note on this slide is the outfall ditch, which I had mentioned previously, which runs right along here. It was noted in design that this portion of Park Avenue between the railroad and US 9 has particularly poor drainage. There's not really an existing outfall for the or relief point for the drainage to exit this area. So what this ditch does is provides that relief point for stormwater to continue along this ditch into the US 9 ditch system and then continues to points north following existing drainage patterns. On this final slide, we get to the intersection of US 9 and Park Avenue, as well as US 9 and Shingle Point Road. At the US 9 and Park Avenue intersection, we will once again be adding turn lanes for all movements, including the eastbound right, the westbound left, and then both left and right turning movements from Park Avenue. I will note for the right turn from Park Avenue to eastbound US 9, we will also be adding an acceleration lane. And this is because this would be the tie-in point for the US 9 truck route into US 9. And this acceleration lane provides better opportunity for trucks and passenger vehicles to accelerate and safely merge with traffic. And due to the widening, the signal will also be rebuilt here at Park Avenue and US 9. At US 9 and Shingle Point Road, this intersection will remain unsignalized, but we will be adding turn lanes once again for the eastbound left and the westbound right, as well as the Shingle Point Road approach will have separate left and right turn lanes. And the final thing to note, at the eastern project limits here, you will note there are 2 existing bus stops. We will be improving those by adding concrete pads adjacent to the shoulder, just to improve the transit facilities in this portion of US 9. So with that, I will turn it back over to Ed to discuss project schedule.
Thanks, Brett. So on this slide, you'll see a general overview of the project schedule. To date, we have completed our final right-of-way plans, which allows the department to begin the right-of-way acquisition process. So that process is currently underway as we are now in the fall of 2021. And our next milestone will be to begin utility relocations, which we anticipate to start next fall in 2022. And by the spring of 2023, we anticipate having all of the right-of-way needed for the project, which will allow the department to advertise and select a contractor to begin construction later that year in the summer of 2023. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. So I saw that some questions were starting to come in. It looks like some of them have been answered, but by all means, feel free to continue to send us your questions through that Q&A icon, or as I mentioned earlier, you can also send me questions at my email directly, and I can share them with the group. My email again is edwin.robles@delaware.gov. Thanks.
Thanks, Ed and Brett. So while we're letting that second presentation digest among the group, if there are any follow-up questions, I'll try to summarize some of the questions, just the general questions, the ones that are more grouped together for the benefit of everyone here. So a lot of the questions from the first presentation had to do with our real estate process, our right-of-way process. So the project is in the right-of-way acquisition phase at this time, and our real estate team is in the process of gathering appraisals for the right-of-way needs of the project. That'll then follow up with offers and the negotiation process with the real estate team, as well as the project team, if that's required or wanted by any of the property owners. We had a lot of other questions regarding wells and septic type of impacts, and that is part of the project development that the project team has gone through to identify those well and septic impacts. That's part of the right-of-way plan that we've put together at this point, and part of what our real estate team is using to do their appraisals. So generally, the thought is if we can relocate those wells or septic systems within the properties, then we will. Unfortunately, if there are instances where we can't, then those become, we try to hook up to public sewer, or public water, and then just generally, if that's not an option, those become full acquisitions. A lot of questions also regarding the road widening and equal property impacts to the sides of the road, because this project is largely on alignment. So the road widening is more or less equal, but there are instances where, for example, we're widening out for turn lanes. Some of those impacts are more skewed towards where that turn lane is being widened for. So things of that nature that can affect how much specific property that DelDOT will need along property frontage. And a lot of, I think, specific type of questions towards personal property were asked on in this meeting, and I think we've said that we're going to follow up to schedule those one-on-one meetings to go through the specific impacts rather than going through it on a display level type of a presentation here. We can go through the actual plans with you, and we're happy to do that. We had a few other kind of more general questions about road realignment, more specifically at the US 9 intersection with Park Avenue. Why not make that more of a traditional 90-degree intersection? Certainly would be better from an operation site distance type of standpoint, but we would be into much more property impacts on both of the corners there to do in either way, whether we shifted it one way or the other. The property impacts would be, we think, too severe. And then there were other questions regarding speed limits and shoulders and things of that nature. What is the posted speed limit going to be, which is 45 miles per hour along Park Avenue, and the concern over increased speeding with the widening of the road to include shoulders. You know, our best strategies at reducing speed are often with roadway geometry, which we can certainly help fix some of the curves that are out there with more in the phase 1 project and then the very beginning of the phase 2 project near Wood Branch. But you know, a lot of the rest of this is very much on a straight tangent, and the speeds are not dictated by geometry at that point. So our best strategies then become trying to clear the roadside of any hazards, enforcing a good clear zone, and trying to meet the criteria for the project of a truck route, which is really calling, driving that wider shoulder footprint. So that's kind of a summary of the more general grouped type of questions that we've received so far tonight. Don't see any more open questions. Project team is certainly available and will stay on until 7 o'clock to be available for any follow-up questions. And we will be actively scheduling those follow-up meetings that we talked about earlier. So we'll hang on. Please feel free to ask any other questions, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, everyone, it is now 6:58, and the Zoom meeting will automatically end at 7 p.m. So I don't see any more questions. So we're gonna start wrapping things up here. Basically, I would just like to thank everyone for attending the workshop and for sending us your feedback. And as I mentioned before, if you think of any questions after tonight, feel free to check out our website and fill out the comment form or email me your questions or comments. I will also note that this workshop is being recorded and we will upload the recording to our website once complete. So that being said, thank you for your time and have a great night.